Hi, my name is Dwight Gillespie, and this is Change Your Life Podcast. I want to welcome you back. It's been a little while. We haven't really recorded one of these in a bit. We've been working on the other channel, which is the Trash TV Review. Highly recommend you go over there. Very different than this channel, however. At this channel, we try to give you some really good information on life and living life and trying to live a better life. Anyway, if you like it, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. By all means, share it with your friends, especially if you hear something worthwhile. And by all means, comment as well. If you have any ideas, anything you'd like to see us talk about over here, please don't hesitate. We answer all comments and everything. Anyway, today's topic is going to be freedom, but not in that, like flag waving anything kind of way. We definitely don't get political here. Politics is not my thing. What we're talking about is internal freedom, and I think the freedom is a funny thing, and I look to one of my heroes. If you're familiar with the channel, one of my heroes is Viktor Frankel. I think he was an amazing man. He passed away a long time ago, actually. One of his quotes is, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." And I love that quote because, if you know Viktor Frankel, he was the head psychiatrist at the Vienna Psychiatric Hospital before the World War II. And he was a Jewish guy taken by the Nazis and put into a concentration camp. And I believe he spent 4 years in places like Dachau and Auschwitz and a couple of really, really horrible places. And he survived by using this idea, that you need to have meaning in your life, right? And you need to define yourself, what it means to truly be free. And that really in any given set of circumstances, the freedom is really an internal thing, or at least that's what I get out of this, right? Now, again, I said we haven't done a podcast in a minute on Change Your Life. We have a lot, what we call in the bank. We do 4 or 5 at a time. And then we had been working on the other channel. So the last ones I did, I was maybe 20 or 30 pounds heavier, I guess, right? It's been like 20 or 30 pounds ago, right? And I started doing this particular, I don't want to call it a diet because it's a way of eating. Like I've incorporated this way of eating into my life because I was really, really struggling with food. If you know me, I'm a recovering addict. I belong to a particular 12-step program, and I try to incorporate these things into all, I try to incorporate these principles into all my affairs. And sometimes it's very difficult. And, I at the doctor, my doctor had told me, look, you're pre-diabetic. I was taking blood pressure medication, 2 of them every day. And it was just going higher and higher. They were increasing the dosages. I was 280 pounds at 5'7", and it just wasn't healthy. Now, and I don't judge anybody. Listen, and I tell people all the time, and maybe you've heard me say this as well, that there's a difference between judgment and observation. And I observe things in people. I don't judge it. I observe it because most of these things I've done myself. Like I was very heavy, and I don't care what anybody says. Look, you can talk all that fat shaming stuff you want at 30 or 35, all right? I'm 59 years old. I've had knee surgery. I've had full knee replacement. My knee is made out of titanium now. And I've had a lot of problems. I've had a lot of intestinal problems. As I said, pre-diabetic, hypertension, back pains, hip pains. Like they would talk about hip replacement. They were going to replace the other knee. Like all of these things are coming as I get older, and all of it is a direct result of my weight. And I remember somebody telling me, you're fat phobic. And I thought about it for me. I was on Quora. I'm on Quora a lot if you want to go on there. Anyway, I was on Quora and this woman called me fat phobic. And I thought about it, right? Because it's so bad. You're a phobic something. Anytime you're phobic, apparently it's bad. But I got to thinking about it and I said, you're right. I am fat phobic because fat was killing me. And I'm afraid of things that kill me. I'm afraid with people with, I'm gun phobic too. Just so you know, I see people shooting guns, I leave, right? I'm phobic. I don't want to die. So yes, I'm fat phobic, but I'm not phobic of fat people. Like I understand it. I am formally grossly overweight. And I'm going to tell you something now, and this is the truth. I've lost 79 pounds as of today. It's 79. I don't know shorts, right? I say 80. It's not 80. It's 79 pounds as of today. And one more pound. I need one more pound. I need to get to 200 to just be considered overweight. and not obese. I've lost 80 pounds and I am still considered obese, okay? So that gives you an idea how big I was. So what is freedom, okay? So I bought this particular book, and I'm going to tell you what it is. It's called Bright Line Eating, and I'm not endorsing anything or anything like that. I'm just telling you that this worked for me. I'm not saying it'll work for you, but it definitely worked for me. And the author, Susan Pierce Thompson, Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson, she talks about it, so I'm not disclosing anything I shouldn't. She talks about she's in recovery herself. She had a drug addiction, apparently, or an alcohol and drug addiction. And she talks about it in her book, and she talks about being addicted to particular foods. And it resonated with me, right? And she said, if you're an addict, right, if you have a problem with addiction, you're probably addicted to these foods too, right? So anyway, this is about freedom, right? So how does all this correlate, right? And I'm going to tell you, I'm a person that loves to read negative reviews. I worked in New York City retail for years, and I realized that crazy people complain like about crazy shit, that's just what they do. They complain about crazy things. But I read negative reviews to see what sane people don't like about something. Because when sane people give you a negative review, it has a lot of weight for me, right? So I went on and I wanted to see what people didn't like about Bright Line Eating. So I went on to YouTube. I'm a YouTuber, right? I went on to YouTube and I wanted to see what don't people like about this. And one woman in particular, she was a nutritionist. She said, how can this woman call this freedom when you're cutting so many things out of your diet? It's a great negative review because this woman doesn't understand addiction. I cut heroin out of my diet. And as a result of that, I had a great freedom. I woke up, I wasn't sick. I no longer stole from my family. I no longer stole from my workmates. I no longer borrowed money I had no intention of paying back. Let's see. I didn't get sick. My ex-wife now, go figure, right? My ex-wife used to say, "You have the flu again? That's like the fourth time this month. Like every 3 days you get the flu." And I'd be like, "Yeah, and if you just give me $20, I could get rid of the flu." The freedom that I experienced by not having to do drugs on a regular basis is the same freedom I experience by losing that weight. You see, I'm a person, I love to hike. I'm a stargazer. I love the stars, man. The vacations I go, I live in New York City, right? There's no stars here. I remember my son, tell you it real quick. My son, he was a little guy. He was 4 or 5 years old. And we went up to New Hampshire. I love New Hampshire. We used to go up there once a year. That was like our thing, right? And I remember taking him out. He said, he was bored. I may have told this story. I love this story. This is my boy, right? Because he's like me. He's so cynical. Anyway, he says, 8 o'clock at night, I'm bored. I'm so bored. What are we doing? He said, come on, let's go. We'll go for a ride. And we go out. And I knew the place because I'd been up to New Hampshire most of my life. Anyway, so we go up and there's this field and I park out there and I said, okay, get out of the car. And he looked at me and goes, are you going to leave me here? And I'm like, what would make you? I said, no, just get out of the car. And I had to get out first. But anyway, so we get out of the car and I told him, I want you to look down, right? Just keep looking down. We get out of the car and I told him, now look up. And his face went up and I see his eyes get huge. He's like, oh my God, Dad, why don't we have these at home? I said, because we live in a godforsaken, pollution-ridden place. Anyway, I forgot my original point. But anyway, I like to look at the stars. I like to hike. When I go on vacation, I don't like cities. I live in the greatest city in the world. Really, if you like cities, there's none better than New York City. You can't beat this place. We have everything here. We got the shore. We got the Broadway. We got food. We got mountains, not far from us. But I like getting out of cities. So I don't really go to cities when I travel. I like to hike. I spent 2 years ago. I was in Utah for a month. I hiked through Zion and Bryce Canyon and everything. But the fatter I got, the harder that became. The worse it was on my knees and all of these things. So you say, okay. So this woman says, well, how can you experience freedom by cutting so much out of your diet? See, it's not about freedom to eat whatever I want. It's about freedom to do what I want and not have my food hold me back. See, that's true freedom. What I have to define for myself when I consider doing these things, right, is what is freedom? How do I want to experience freedom? Is freedom to me? I mean, if freedom to you is like, I have the freedom, I can sit down and eat 3 pizza pies and a full tray of lasagna, well, God bless you. But then you don't have the other freedoms that I find important. What I had to do is make a value assessment of my life and say, what do I really want to do? Like, what is it that really makes me feel free? What is it that inspires my soul, that really motivates me? And for me, it's nature. I love being out in nature. I love being out in nature more than I love lasagna. I love being out in nature more than I love eating fresh bread. I'm not saying that these things aren't good. I'm saying that for me, it comes down to one or the other, because I know for me, part of my freedom tells me, once I get started, I can't stop. I can't stop. And I've tried all those diets. I've tried to do it, and I couldn't do it, right? And so I say, this isn't a diet. I've learned a new way to eat, and through that, I have freedom. So I think my point with this is, right, I have a friend, and he says all the time, he says, you either have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And that, to me, what a beautiful way to put it, right? Now, I either have the pain of discipline where I'm going to eat right, I'm going to get healthy, I'm going to exercise, and therefore do the things that I truly enjoy doing. I love boating. I love walking. I love hiking. I love running. I love doing all of these things. I like being physical. And I was not able to do that with all the weight that I had gained. So I have that pain of discipline, and I prefer it to the pain of regret. Because my regrets are, like, I looked horrible. I don't care what anybody says. It just isn't attractive. I'm not saying I'm any Raven Beauty now, don't get me wrong. But I can look in a mirror today and not be ashamed of what I'd become. And not that there's any shame in being fat, but it was for me. For me, it made me feel bad about myself, because I said, how could you let yourself go like this? You're holding yourself back from doing the things you truly love to do. This is one of the reasons I stopped doing drugs. See, my freedoms work. Look, I'm always going to have things. I say I'll be a work in progress until the day I die. Like, I know this. Like, there's always going to be stuff to work on, and whether it's food or sex or, you know, drugs or alcohol or cigarettes. Like, I've had all of these things, and I always say, I use whatever makes me feel good until it makes me feel bad. Like, there's no in between for me. And that's the way it goes. That's just the mentality that I have. That particular doctor, Pierce Thompson, you know, she had a thing on her website. There's an addiction test, you know, and it's like 10 questions. I scored a perfect 10, right? It's the only time I get 100 on a test, you know, because I have an addictive personality. It's what I am. And my freedom comes in knowing that. I have great freedom in knowing how I have an obsessive, compulsive personality, and that once I get started in a given endeavor, I can't stop of my own volition. And my best course of action is often to not engage to begin with. So that's what freedom is to me. Freedom to choose my own attitude, right? People say, because I know a lot of control freaks. And let me tell you something, and you think you can control people, you can't. You have no control over people. The only things that I can control are my effort and my attitude. 2 things in life I have ultimate control over: my effort and my attitude. And that is the pain of discipline, right? Because if my effort and my attitude are proper, I'll be able to eat properly, exercise, take care of myself, not use drugs, not do this, not do that. Keep things going in a good direction. And that's it. It's nice and simple today. That is freedom to me. Define it for yourself. Sit down and discuss what is truly important. And I'm not saying it has to be about food. It could be about anything. Do you drink too much? Does your does your family get on you about your drinking? Is it inhibiting your work performance? Are drugs hindering your job performance? You know, do you sit around smoking pot and, you know, playing video games all day, wondering why you can't get a job? You know, these are the things that we discuss. And what maybe you want to think about doing is really deciding what is freedom to you. What does it mean to be true? Because for some people, that may be true freedom. Sit home, do absolutely nothing, become a bump on the couches. I remember an old Roseanne Barr when, you know, she said, girls, you may think you're married to the man of your dreams, but 15 years later, all you have is a couch that farts, you know, like, it's a great line. You know, and maybe that's freedom to you. I don't know. To me, it wasn't very freeing. And so I had to do these things and really define for myself what it meant to be free. That's it for today. My name is Dwight Gillespie. As I said, I thank you for tuning in. Again, if you like what you see, please subscribe. Please hit the notification button. Tell your friends about it. Share it. Comment below. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.